To a cop, the explanation is never that complicated. It's always simple. There's no mystery to the street, no arch criminal behind it all. If you got a dead body and you think his brother did it, you're gonna find out you're right.
My question is for Mr. D'Souza. It's going to sound like a smart-ass question, but I really don't mean it that way. What do you think God has against amputees, anyway?
What does God have against amputees?
Yeah, why don't people that believe in divine intervention test it in a situation where the results would be unambiguous, like an amputee? You don't ever hear about that.
Well, you're asking, and so initially I thought you were being silly, but you're asking a very profound question about the nature of miracles. And let me answer it this way. The argument of the Christian, well, first of all, I do reject the Stephen Jay Gould idea that religion and science are in totally separate domains. In some senses, they do have an overlapping area, and miracles is a good example of that. If I were to say to you, I didn't have an arm yesterday and today I do, that's completely empirically verifiable. We can bring in the doctor, we can bring in the yardstick, we can measure my arm. So in that sense, I argue that any miracle should be judged by the standards of modern science. By the way, the Catholic Church agrees with you. If someone claims a miracle, their idea is not to say, oh, hallelujah. It is to say, bring in the doctors, bring in the scientists, bring in the devil's advocate, and let's test this out. But here's the point I want to make about miracles. There is a categorical difference between claims of miracles, which are in the empirical domain, and a whole set of other questions equally vital for our everyday life, but that lie outside the domain of experience. If I were to say to you, is there an afterlife? That is a question of a different kind. You could say, well, I don't believe in it because where is the evidence for it? I would say to you, what kind of evidence are you looking for? Are you waiting for dead people to come back to life and testify in court? That's not going to happen. So if you say, I don't know, and therefore I don't believe, and I say, I don't know, and yet I believe, we both don't know. The only difference is, I admit it. I admit that my belief in an afterlife is based on faith, whereas you erroneously think that your rejection of the afterlife is the triumph of reason. It's not. It too is a leap in the dark. It too is a position taken on faith. So I would distinguish between miracles on the one hand and claims about the afterlife, the soul, and God, where I think both the atheist and the believer is to some degree taking a step in the dark.
Let me just follow up real quick. You believe God heals.
Sure.
So why, to get to his question, so why
Oh,
does he
right.
heal amputees?
Oh, this is a good question. Okay, I'll answer the question. I think I was trying to get a little deeper than the question, but I'll rise to the level of the question. Look, I'll answer it. Miracles can happen in two ways. One way is in the way of God uses a non-force to produce something that could not have occurred naturally. The other is there is something that would not have happened if natural forces were left to their own devices, but the supernatural intervention is simply to use natural means to bring about a result that wouldn't otherwise have occurred. Let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, we're saying that when the Israelites were leaving Egypt, they were pursued by the Egyptians and a storm came that then killed all the Egyptians. You could say, well, why did God need a storm? He could basically have come down from heaven himself and killed them one by one. But the natural device of the storm may have had a supernatural instigation. You have no way of knowing whether it did or not any more than I do. So here we are in the province of faith, but all I'm trying to say is the belief that there is a supernatural agency is no more irrational than your insistence that there isn't. What am I talking about? I answered his question.
All right. Hang on.
You could say, well, I don't believe in it because where's the evidence for it? I would say to you, what kind of evidence are you looking for?